it's absurd that society and the concepts of reality are grounded on something that's completely false. This is the greatest lie in world history. And I'm here to reveal to you how to never fall for it again. Here's the triple problem. We're all believing in a lie together. A deep part of you knows that it's a lie. And in order to face it, you have to undo a wide range of your beliefs in what it is to be a normal human being on planet Earth. 2002, I was ending a dream of being a professional musician. I'd been performing and making an impact. I had someone offer to be my producer, and I was coming to terms with the fact that I didn't feel like he believed in me. He just liked the impact I had on people. And as I stared into that, I realized the impact I was having on people wasn't the impact I wanted to be having. I didn't feel like I was reaching people's hearts. I was evoking a lot of energy, and I didn't see a way to bridge the gap for the archetype itself of performing on a stage. I knew how to get attention, but I didn't know how to get the attention I wanted. So I said no, and I disappeared for a while and spent time with family and faced some of my roots, and life got worse in a real way. I found the deepest dysfunctions in my own heritage and lost my sense of purpose on multiple levels. I prayed as I was learning to do, and perhaps didn't know it was a direct response, but got invited to a ceremony. The ceremony was it was a community garden created by people who had squatted and owned 4 plots in the South Bronx. I was entranced by the idea that there was a Native American ceremony going on in this land. The first ceremony was humbling. It's an all-night ceremony, and it ended with a sweat lodge in the morning, and I felt so high that I was convinced that this was easy. This spiritual work, I'm good at this. I'm tremendous. And we were all chanting together, and I decided I was going to chant to help protect everyone else because they needed my strength. And I was already a leader. Got a splitting migraine. It lasted all day and into the night, and it was difficult for me to bridge the gap and accept that I embraced this pain by being a fool and lacking humility. And that was a hallmark of my time. I continued to do ceremonies with these folks, and it seemed to be the process of bringing up my obnoxiousness and my immaturity and putting me face to face with the truth, not just of myself, but of the way this world works. During one all-night ceremony, a man started to throw up. He was strong. He was a fierce-looking Native American, and he started puking, and I was sort of taken aback. And all the leader did was say, "Get a shovel." And right there in front of him, they dug a little hole, dumped the dirt on top, and just put the everything he was throwing up into the earth. And as this happened, he said, "Be careful. Be careful what you think is happening here. We are all learning to feel. We are all getting well. He's not getting sick. He's getting well. And sometimes the people who hold it and give it back to the earth are stronger than you. Sometimes they're doing it for you." I was becoming reverent to the sense that there was an awareness here going on that I had never encountered before. So I believed him, and I don't remember what happened next. I remember starting to shake and sensing I'd seen a documentary about a mass murder and hadn't realized that it was in my head. Like it was like a real true crime drama, and it had gotten into me in a way that I was carrying. Well, I lost consciousness, and all of a sudden I came back, like out of space, it seemed, and Melvin, the guide, was yelling at me. And I could barely understand what was happening, and I turned to my friend and I said, what's happening? And she said, you took a spiritual shit in the teepee. And then slowly I started hearing him say, you think you're strong? You think you're strong? You go talk to the moon. You go talk to the moon. You talk to the trees. You talk to the rivers. You need help facing this. You need help, but you gotta do it. You gotta do it yourself. Go deep. Well, by the morning, I was well. But what he said had registered, and I spent more time by myself, going on longer walks. I talked to one of the people who respected him and supported him, followed him the most, and he said, you have to understand, the space that this ceremony holds is bigger than the Western intellectual disease. The words pierced my heart, like they just went straight into the heart of what was wrong for me. This sense that my mind could somehow embrace everything, understand everything, control everything. And I was suffering from this disease. And the ceremonies that they were sharing made me well. Over the course of the next several years, I learned to talk with Luna. I spent times hearing the quiet voice calling me into the darkness, and went at night to talk to the spirits of the trees and to sit by streams and rivers and let them teach me what is real. We are living through our senses. First and foremost, the senses that you know of: sight, hearing, smell, touch, and taste. As you begin to awaken to the recognition of further levels of awareness, you gain the ability to receive insight through the third eye into what's going on around you, which is often intentional. If you focus on something, you'll see. You will literally see within your imagination insight that you're not making up, whether or not you think you are. You'll also learn to feel felt sense of resonance, which is distinct from the felt sense of the body. And it's important to learn the vocabulary to understand this is an entirely different mode of awareness. And as you gain access to these two, further levels of sensing reality become more present and a part of your life. But when we start, we are trained from the moment we're born to see life through these initial 5 senses that are part of the physical awareness that shapes everything that we do. For this to make sense, you have to let go. Understand that there's a level of trust here which you can tap into within yourself. You're not trusting me, you are trusting your ability to feel and tune into the truth of what I'm sharing with you, because I tell you, you already know this to be true. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. When you're born on Earth in a body, you're making a choice to start over with an entirely new reference point. The advantage of starting over is that you block all your old modes of being conscious, and you give yourself a new foundation, and from this foundation, an entirely different perspective gives you the opportunity to shift all sorts of forces in your life that you couldn't shift if you weren't born into a specific life in a body. But this doesn't make sense if you keep thinking from the vantage of yourself as you are in this body, looking out towards other ideas, dreaming that perhaps these words are true that I share with you. They're true. You're a spiritual being having a human experience in a body, and the restrictions of this awareness are very specific. We see light within a very clear range. All the wavelengths of color, from red to violet, exist within this range. So you could say they're like 1.1, 1.2. it's more specific, but all the way up until 1.9, and then we don't see above that, we don't see below that. The results of this restriction are we have focus, and we can see things in the ways we do, but make no mistake, we're only seeing a very specific slice of what's real. So here we go. Space is not black. That is a misconception. It's based on the perception that we can't see beyond those light frequencies. What it does is it gives us a sense that light is something that only comes from stars, because we are seeing something that we call light that only comes from stars. We aren't seeing the other things. But make no mistake, everything else gives off what is essentially light. Now I say that because we have the capacity to do something it's better than seeing. You see in all directions. You don't just see this way. You see behind yourself. And you see in a broader range of light spectrum, which includes light that essentially emits from what we call dark matter. This is true. This is real. And when you re-embrace this truth, you have to get in touch with the sense you already know this. You know this in a level of awareness that precedes your birth. And so the resistance to believing this comes along with the fear of dissolving the boundary that prevents you from remembering. The lie is that we're alone. The lie is that there's nothing else out there. The lie is that it's all black and cold and gas and stone and empty. It's not empty. Everything is essentially conscious, and consciousness is more fundamental than life. I don't particularly like according life just to our carbon-based material existence with finite beginnings and ends. We are alive. We incarnate into physical bodies, and these bodies have specific ranges of existence. If you damage the heart and the mind, the brain too much, they won't continue. But you will. And as you do, you re-embrace much of the awareness that preceded your birth. That gift is transcendent. You get to re-embrace the universe, the one verse, the presence that we share with all beings. Some boundaries cannot be crossed without belief. Some levels of faith are only possible from the depth of your heart. By all means, anticipate deeper levels of trust and an awareness that can grip the fabric of reality with complete assurance that it's real. It's here, and you're a part of it in a way that is sustainable, that makes sense, and will continue on into the future. And there are these zones in between where you're letting go of what you used to believe before you know how to embrace the truth of a broader, deeper presence. As you allow the self that you know of by the name that you were born in this body that you still hold to dissolve, you will recognize sensations and forms of awareness that predicate your belief in the future before you have the facts. This works because the truth of the presence of these forces is real, whether or not you believe in them. There's this in-between space where your belief has an influence over what's real. But some things are true whether or not you believe them, and some things are not true, no matter how hard you try. The world is a small piece of a much bigger verse, a song that is shared by beings everywhere. They live in space, they live in rocks, they live in multiple layers of existence that are akin to ecosystems on other planets, and on this planet has multiple ranges of reality, timelines, presences that are different dimensions that are akin to changing the radio station on what is real, and we are a tiny attunement here. We are not everything, and we will never grasp the full range of this reality unless we dissolve the lie that we are alone and that space is black. The reason we are here starts with the exchange of karma with the earth. You can stay if you commit to this. You can love deeply and learn a wide range of ways of being here that are unique and special to being here. And in the next video, I will introduce you to why we have come to live on earth.